So when you incarnate into your new body, your memories are wiped. So to your new avatar, this seems like a temporary experience, right? And your memory is encoded in your temporal lobe, right? Temporary experience, temporal lobe.
All right, so I want you to remember as above, so below. This natal chart tells you a lot about your life and the world around you. For example, you often hear that Jesus died at the age of 33. Well, another way of looking at that is that the sun died on the 33rd degree parallel. Another way of looking at the ascendant and descendant is the horizontal rising, aka the horizon. So another thing about the natal chart is that the cardinal houses are the houses that are going to have the biggest impacts on your life. So that's going to be the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th, right? Another way that you can look at that is north, east, west, and south. The ascendant represents the eastern hemisphere. The descendant represents the western hemisphere. The ascendant represents what you can call hell, and the midheaven represents heaven, right? The south wind is the hottest wind. The Mississippians believe that your soul traveled east, right? The rising. So the ascendant, the rising is where your soul comes in. So this is why the first house is the house of the identity. And the 12th house is the ending of cycles. And the 12th house ruler is Neptune, the welcomer to death. So it's no coincidence that the 12th house, the last house, the ending of cycles, is represented by Neptune, right? Neptune welcomes in the ancestors. And right when you go from the 12th house back to the first house, you have to go over the ascendant. So this is like you finishing a life and then jumping over the ascendant back into a new life. So at the beginning of this video, I said your memories are wiped, right? Now, when you come back into this life, I believe that the way it's supposed to be set up is like when you go from an iPhone to an iPhone, you know, when you back up your memory. And so when you get a new iPhone, you can take the settings from your old iPhone and transfer them to your new iPhone via the cloud. Well, everything that we do in this life is recorded, or else you wouldn't have an end of life review. The fact that we have an end of life review lets you know that literally every single thing that you do in this life is and will always be recorded. And that is taken care of by your temporal lobe. So the 12th house is the ending of cycles. The first house is the beginning of cycles, right? You begin your new life. The first house is represented by the sign of Aries, the ram. So this is why when you see Baphomet, Baphomet is representing the ram. Look at his hands. As above, so below. The ascendant, the descendant. And if you look at the center of his body, that is the Kundalini, right? That is regeneration, reincarnation. You have one snake that represents electric, one snake that represents magnetic, right? And that's the electromagnetic energy, and they're coming up the pole, right? That polar energy. Another thing that's special about the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th, the cardinal houses, is that the first house represents you, right? Coming into this life. The fourth house represents your incarnated family, right? Your mom, your roots. The seventh house represents you, the partner that you get with, right? Coming together. And then the 10th house represents the partner and you coming together and creating your own family. And these houses are the opposite of each other. The 7 looks at the first, the 10th looks at the fourth, and they're directly connected. So it is literally the journey of you from your incarnation to the family that you leave. And leaving a family is how you remain a player in the game, because it is my belief that you are probably the grandfather or grandmother you did not meet. When you create more players in the game, you give yourself a new body to reincarnate to. So one way of playing the game and continuing to stay in the game is respawning, reincarnation, right? You create a new body and then your soul has a new avatar to occupy, right? So the 7th house, the man and the woman, they get together, the electric man, releases his electric charge, and the woman's magnetic egg draws in his electric charge, and together they make this electromagnetic energy that harnesses a new baby. So from the 10th house, the next cardinal house is the first house, right? And you can see that it is a story of the man and woman coming together, because another thing that is symbolic of the ram's head is the female reproductive system. I'll give you a second to look at it. Right now, keep your eyes on this real quick. You see Aries, female reproductive system, the first house. And everything that I'm saying now is not only the natal chart, it's our world, right? Because not only are the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses the cardinal houses, in our reality, you have the cardinal winds that come from the north, east, the west, and the south. So you can say the east wind and the west wind comes from the ascendant and descendant points. And the north wind and the south wind comes from the midheaven and the IC points. And this is exactly why the IC is representative of hell, right? Your lowest point, and the south wind represents hot wind coming from hell. As above, so below. And this is quite literally what the Ouroboros represents, right? You have the snake that is descending down into the womb of creation. Well, the man's privates, the man's phallus, it's representative of a snake. And when he enters into the womb of creation, the woman's womb, that's literally what it is, the matrix. You bring in a baby through the matrix into the simulation after the man enters in his snake and spits and creates a new creation. And that's the tree of life. That's a snake eating itself. That's you reincarnating, right? And you reincarnate by the snake entering into the womb of creation, the man entering into the woman. The snake in Nordic religion is known as Yomagander, one of the children of Loki. Another way of saying Loki is the devil or Satan. And in the new season of Loki, right, Loki, devil, Satan, the person he goes to for assistance is Ouroboros. In the show, they call him OB, but you can see right there, Ouroboros. So when you come into the game, your headset, your joystick is consciousness, right? It's tied to your senses. It's tied to the way you maneuver through the game. It's tied to the way you conjure new things into the game, right? Your main system, your pineal gland, reticular activating system, right? So your consciousness is located in the neocortex, which is why Neo was named Neo in the Matrix, because the neocortex houses the consciousness. Okay. And the consciousness is tied to dreams. And it's my belief that dreams are one of the most important factors of the simulation to guide you through, right? It can take you to the all. And Neo was guided by Morpheus, the god of dreams, to the oracle. And you can tap into the all in dreams, right? And he fell in love with Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, the pineal gland, the light of the world. So this story of the Matrix is the story of you navigating through this Matrix, right? The return of Christ, Christ consciousness. You know, and they mark part of fortune with the X in a natal chart. And, you know, X is in the center of our realm, right? Like the Xbox. And that is where the time tunnel is located, which is why a clock looks just like a natal chart. 12 hours, 12 houses. All right, so the last thing that I'll leave you with, right, and going with this, the natal chart looks like a clock, is that we're ruled by time. And from the moment you're born, time is eating away at you. Another way of saying this is Kronos eats babies, Saturn. This is why whatever house Saturn is in, he will try to slow you down. Like I said in another lecture, Uranus was deified as the sky god, right? The firmament. And all the stars are in the firmament, which is why Uranus controls astrology in the natal chart, because all the stars are in the sky. and the sky is Uranus, which is why the 11th house rules over groups of people, all of us.